Okay, good day. Welcome to Jeeping.Net. Today we're going to be looking at these Poison Spyder trail corners. These are available for the TJ and LJ. They're also available for the JK and some other models, but today we'll just be talking about the TJ and LJ since the install is different for each vehicle. These are a real value item. They're insanely cheap for what they are. They're 3/16 metal. They have a full wraparound top to bottom. And they really only do have one bend, which is why they're able to keep down their price. But for the thickness of this metal and the heaviness of this, this is hopefully it's going to be a great product. I'm actually going to put this down, it's getting so heavy. So the installation of these is pretty straightforward. Depending on your install, you may need nut certs in a few areas. I'll go through that in a few minutes. And it does come in two styles. This is for the stock taillight that I want to use, or you can get the round cutout for the LED. If I decide in the future I want to modify this, no problem, I take holes off and it's done. It is nice that they give those two options. So what I'm going to do in a second, I'm going to jump in and show you guys how I installed this. But before that, just to let you guys know, I actually did a bunch of cleanup here. So this is all new paint. And that's because I had a bit of rock rash here, a little bit of rust starting to form. So I went through and repainted the whole back end of my Jeep. And rather than going through Bondo and making it look nice, these corners were a really quick, cheap solution. It gives me a lot of body protection in the long run. So you do want to make sure whatever you're installing these over is in good shape, because you don't want to be installing this over rust. They'll just keep on rusting. So anyway, let's jump into the install, and then we'll come back and tell you guys what I think about these. Thanks a lot.
So what I'm doing here is I've attached the trail corner to the body with a couple of clamps, and I'm just making sure that the tailgate hinges and the brake light are still going to mount up okay in its current location. Once I'm pretty sure the corners line up correctly, I just made sure that it was fairly flush with the bottom of the body. Then you want to center punch your holes. I find it actually easier to use a really small drill bit to center my holes. On a black body, it's really hard to actually see the indentation afterwards, and here I just find this more simpler. And just to make sure everything's going to look good afterwards, I went back and just measured all my holes, just to make sure that everything's going to look on plane. I then came back with a full-size drill bit here. I'm checking behind the body to make sure there's no wiring. But I'm actually using drill bits in this case that actually have a kind of a pilot hole built into them. Normally you would want to do a pilot hole building up. This is 1/4" drill for these locations. Then you want to come back and make sure your holes are nice and clean, there's no metal burrs. And give them a good little coat of paint to stop any further rusting. Then I went ahead and installed 3 nut certs on this side. One's in the very bottom, and these 2 upper ones are really optional. In later model TJs, you may want to install these just because the evap canister gets in the way. Then I mounted the corner up and was able to actually use the bolts into those nut certs to hold it temporarily while I got the rest of the nuts in. You don't want to tighten up any of the nuts at this point, just finger tight at most at this point. You just want to make sure that all your holes are still lined up correctly. Now once all of your nuts are in, you can actually start tightening them up. Again, you just want to go a little bit tight, not super tight on these bolts. They are not going to take a whole lot of stress. For the bolts that are not nut certs, you simply insert a washer and then a locking nut. Again, you only want to go so tight on these. These are stainless steel bolts and they will break. As I mentioned later in this video, I actually end up breaking one of these bolts by going too tight. So here we are. Passenger side is now installed. Pretty simple install really. You just don't want to over tighten things. Extra set of hand really does help out. Now let's switch over to the passenger.
So here we are. We got both sides on. Driver's side actually ended up being quite a bit easier than the passenger side because there's actually some holes in the corner guards for the license plate and the gas filler nozzle. So I was able to actually use those bolts, lightly tighten it up to the body and get it to conform to the body a little better than I could on the passenger side. So really all in all, I really like these. 2 little things I ran into. One of the bolts broke actually when I was tightening it. I really wasn't tightening it very hard and it just snapped. But I'll pick up another bolt one of these days, not too difficult. And after I put these on, the screws for the tail lights no longer were long enough. I'm not sure if mine might have been replaced at one point, but I was able to easily just run to the hardware store and get them. They're kind of an odd size, but I did get lucky and find those. The other issue I guess I ran into, but wasn't that big of an issue, was what do you do with the nutserts? The instructions only talk about 2 nutserts. They talk about the nutsert in this corner right here, and they talk about the nutsert over here in this corner. And in fact, those are optional. You can actually drill a hole behind those and easily get to them. So they give you 5 in the package. I assume it's for people like myself who find other uses for them. So I ended up putting one right here and one right here. And that's because I have an evap on this later model Jeep, like all later models do. The earlier models, the evap's under the hood. So I'm not easily able to access those bolts. I could have removed the evap system, reached them, but in this case, it was just easier to put a nutsert in. I really don't mind using nutserts, especially these smaller ones. The bigger ones for the transfer case become a little bit harder to use, but these ones, they actually fold up really quite well. And Poison Spyder even gives you the tools so you don't have to make one yourself. And you will see I actually made a plate right here. This is also a 3/16 metal. Poison Spyder actually makes these, but I actually just opted to make my own. I think the ones they make are out of aluminum. And the reason I made these is I am doing something different with my tailgate here in the future. That's a different project. But anyway, I'm very happy with these. I think they're a very good value for the price. And yeah, I'll let you guys know if I have any problems with them, but I think these are going to be a great product. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching. Give me a thumbs up. Ask any questions away. Thanks. Bye.